Hey, this is Andrew with Mock 2U Drop, and in this video I want to talk about the new computer-based testing for Level 1 and what to expect on exam day. I'm also going to talk about the efficiency and flexibility with the computer-based exam and how it's compared to the old paper-based exam. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a test-taking tip that you might find helpful, so be sure to stay until the end of this video. Alright, so check-in is typically going to be around 8 a.m. But depending on your test center, you might be able to start check-in a little bit earlier, such as closer to 7 a.m. You want to check in with your test center, but the only things that you should have to bring are going to be your passport and calculator. Now the test center will provide you with pen and scratch paper. And depending on the time that you arrive at your test center, the entire check-in process may take 5 to 10 minutes. If you get there earlier, if you get there closer to 8 a.m., it might be a little bit longer. So you're going to be provided with a locker so you can store all your belongings that you can't have on the exam room, such as your cell phone and keys. When you get into the exam room, you're going to have the option to run through an initial tutorial on the exam. Now the nice thing here is that you can actually run through this tutorial through the CFA website before you take the exam. So when you're in the exam room, you can just skip over it if you like. Now assuming that you start the exam a little bit before 8 a.m., you could essentially be done by 10. And once you're done, you can take your 30-minute break. But with the previous paper-based exam, you actually had to stick around until 12 p.m. when the exam time limit was over. So not only will you have the flexibility to leave for your 30-minute break as soon as you're done, but you could be done before 10 a.m. with the first half of the exam. All right, so once you finish with the first half of the exam, the 30-minute clock starts until you can take the second half. So you can take your break, do what you need to do. Then you'll come back and repeat the same process, and you should be done by around 12 p.m. Whereas with the paper-based exam, the second half of the exam didn't even start till 2 p.m., and you would have to stay till 5 in the afternoon. So therefore, the computer-based exam is not only much shorter, but it gives you a lot more flexibility. Now, before I get into the test-taking tip, if you're a Level 1 candidate, I highly recommend that you check out our free mock exam, which you can find in the link below this video. If you decide to implement this test-taking tip that I'm about to talk about, I highly recommend that you attempt it on a mock exam first before you attempt it on the actual exam. And if you're interested in more mock exams, we have a whole mock exam package on our website. Alright, so the last thing that I want to talk about is a test-taking tip. Now, before you go trying this on the actual exam, please attempt this on a couple mock exams first. You're going to want to make sure that you're comfortable doing it before you go live. Now, I've personally used this strategy, and it's definitely worked pretty well for me. So when you're taking the exam, you're going to find that some questions you know fairly well and can answer relatively quickly. And then others are just going to take much longer to figure out, or you either don't know them and you're just going to have to guess. So the idea here is to give each question an equal weighted amount of time that you would spend on an easy question. So you might be asking yourself, how much time should I be spending on each question if I'm to give, an equal weighted amount of time? Well, there's not really any set amount of time that you need to give each question, but, just for sake of this video, let's say an easy question, you can answer in relatively, about 20 seconds. And, if it's like a longer calculation problem that you know pretty well, it might take up to 40 seconds. So this is going to be very subjective. It's going to vary based on how you do. The idea here is that you shouldn't have to think too much into the question. So you can kind of distinguish between an easy question and a more difficult question, kind of probably in the first 10 seconds of once you finish, reading the question. When it comes to the more difficult questions, you're just going to want to choose the best answer with an amount of time that you spent on the easier question. So if you're giving yourself no more than 40 seconds on a question, stick to that amount of time. Now, I'm not saying you have to look at the clock while you're doing this. That's why I recommend doing this on a couple mock exams first, so you kind of get an idea of how much time you need to spend. Now, as you quickly answer these more difficult questions, again, these questions might take you a minute, minute and a half, and you're spending 20, 30 seconds, up to 40 seconds maybe, just to get an answer in there. You're probably going to be asking yourself, why don't I just skip over these questions and come back to them at the end? So I see this as more of a mental strategy. If you can get through the whole exam, have about an hour still remaining, and you've answered all questions, what this is going to allow you to do is give all your focus to fine-tuning those more difficult questions that you flagged. And you don't have to be as concerned about the fact that you have maybe 30 or 40 questions that you've left unanswered. So I think it's going to give you, less stress when it comes to kind of like watching the clock and, oh, I didn't answer these 30 or 40 questions. I think just kind of running through them, putting an answer down, it's going to be, mentally less stressful. And again, I highly recommend that you just attempt this on a couple mock exams first, kind of get in the swing of things of how this, this strategy may work for you. Some of you, it may not work, so, don't just wait till the exam day to do it. All right, so if you got value out of this video, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you can stay updated on our latest videos. Thanks for watching.